Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of our tutorial on making this animated planet thing. I hope you've seen part 1. This is where we left off. We have this planet. It's a bit different to the one that I started off showing you, but you know, it evolved and I think it got better. But it's up to you. If you don't like the displacement, just go to materials and just switch it off in the displacement channel. Or just make it smaller and you're back to a regular planet without overly exaggerated parts. So anyway, we're going to work with displacement because, well, I like it. So, first thing we're going to do, we got to add the booles. Because we got to split this thing up and we got to make it open up, so we can see the inside. So, first of all, I'm going to explain what a boole is. A boole is this thing that, here it is, boole. It's basically lets you subtract one object from another. Now, before I start showing you how to use it, I got to tell you straight away, never use this in modeling. Do not use this in, the only time you can use this is at the end. Like when you're animating something, you can do some cutaways, that's it. Don't try to cut eye holes into a character with this. Just don't. It makes terrible geometry and you're going to be kicking yourself throughout your whole project if you do. So, in simple terms, what it does, we get a cube, and then we get another cube, and we move this cube up here. And let's make a new project to demonstrate this more effectively. Hit Control N. We got two cubes. This one's here. Now let's make a boole object, and let's throw these into the boole. As you can see, we just cut one object out of the other, and if we move it, it'll continue to add cuts. Now, with cubes, not much of an issue. As you can see, the geometry is pretty clean. And this is probably not the best way, but, it's not a big issue. But if we replace this cube with, say, a sphere, and let's put it into a cube, you will see that this sphere has a lot of ugly geometry up here inside. Like, this stuff is really bad for smoothing or animating or rigging. It's just terrible. Also, if you haven't noticed here, if you switch the order, you can have the sphere cut out of the cube or the cube cut out of the sphere. And once again, see, look what happens. Like, this is not good. I mean, like, if you smooth this surface, that's just, like, you get all these terrible artifacts and stuff. So, moral of the story, don't use booles for modeling. Like, only use them if you're already animating something and you need to cut away, or if you're at the end of your phase and you need to like temporarily cut off someone's limb, or it's a final solution kind of thing. Like, you can't keep on doing stuff to objects after you boole them. Like, you can, but it's painful and mostly turns out ugly. So back to our project. We have a sphere. Now, how are we going to boole this thing out? You could say we could use a cube, and by the way, if you screw up your views, you go Control-Shift-Z, and that moves your camera back. It undoes just your camera moves. So first thing, let's get this plane out so it doesn't interfere with our movement. Now, if we move the sphere and we put it like here, and we make a boole, and we stick out planet and our cube, and we change the order, we have pretty much the effect that we want. But the problem with this effect is that we don't really have a way of animating this cube to fold in and out, like in our animation. So I found the best way to actually animate what we need is by using a tube. Because a tube has this wonderful feature, if you go to attributes, it is called slice. If you turn it on, you lose half of it, but then you can expand it. As you can see, we can use this as a slice, and it'll expand and cut away parts of our globe that we don't want. So, what we're going to do is we're going to move it back to 0, 0, 0. And we're going to increase its height, because right now it's not tall enough to cut the whole globe. And we're going to decrease this inner, actually let's just make the boole first. We've got the boole, let's plug it in there, let's flip it back. And we have the cutaway. As you can see, we have the cube and the slice, and we can cut away more or less of it, depending on what we want. However, at this moment, we're also kind of have this not cutaway bit here. So So what we do is go to Object, and we move our inner radius in. And don't do it all the way, keep it at like maybe 2 centimeters or something. Because this sphere here has a point in the middle, and I don't want to interfere with that point. I don't know, it might cause unpredictable results, I'd rather just keep it, contained. So, here we go, we have our cutaway happening. Now, I think our camera was facing here, so we're going to get this tube, and we're going to rotate it. Oops. Grab this green thing, hold the Shift key, and just rotate it to 90 degrees. There you go. Now, this tube, let's animate its position. Let's animate its slice straight off. Let's go. Let's move it to 0. Control click on this thing. And then at like 25, let's move it out to 122 or whatever. Control click on our keyframe. Now if we deselect everything, we have an animation of our sphere unfolding. Now, firstly, this part is going to be actually the soil, because this is going to be the topmost layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new material. We're going to make it brown. If you don't know why my color thing looks like this, it's generally just you right-click on this thing. You click here and you go HSV instead of RGB. That's probably what yours looks like. I prefer HSV, which is hue saturation value. Check out my material tutorial. It'll explain how to set these defaults up. And also this thing at the bottom is very useful if you have enough screen space. So we get our brown material here. It's going to be our soil. Let's name it soil layer. And let's drag it onto this tube. And see, now it opens up and we have soil. By the way, if you want to scroll back and forward through your timeline and you don't want to move your mouse all the way down here, you just hold the J key and you click and drag in the viewport and you can play through your timeline. Very convenient. So, the next thing we need the inside layers of the sphere. Actually, before that, let's do a quick render and see what happens. We hit render here. We have something weird going on. See, it's good to do test render sometimes. We seem to be having this weird ridge and it's pushing it down. Now, the reason this happens is because in our material here, in our displacement, we have this thing selected, which is intensity centered, which basically what it does is when it takes the black and white map, it makes 50% gray, like exactly between white and black. It keeps it level the same place as it was. And then black goes down 5 centimeters or whatever the height is, and white goes up 5 centimeters, whatever the height is. And that's why we have this weird ridge here that we see when it displaces, because the boole is still acting on the original sphere. It's a very easy fix. We change it from intensity centered to intensity. And now everything black is 0, like it doesn't raise at all, it just keeps it at 0. And everything white goes up 5 centimeters. And we hit render. And see, we don't have any problem here. However, you'll notice that the displacement has actually reduced in size. This thing is now half. And that's because before it was going from -5 to 5, and now it's only going from 0 to 5. So that's an easy fix. You just go here, star 2, and you have 10. And now if we hit render, we have the same big icebergs on the top, and we don't have the problem with the ridge here, which is wonderful. So, we've solved that problem. Let's keep going. The next thing we need to do is we need our mantle, the yellow bit. Let's copy and paste this bool, Control-C, Control-V. Delete this texture and this texture. Copy and paste this texture, but just going Control-Drag. And let's make it color, let's make it yellow. Let's drag it up, get it orange, and let's put on this bool. And this bool, let's scale it down, R key or whatever key is to scale, depending on your shortcut. And then just change it to Move tool and move this thing out a bit. Maybe a bit less here. There we go. Once again, you can scale it till you have the thickness that you want of your crust, depending on how realistic or animated you want it to look. Okay, sweet. And now all we need is another little sphere. Let's scale it down, and this is going to be our core. And the material, call this mantle, and this is going to be core. And let's change the color to red. Whoops. Nope, let's drag it onto the sphere. And there we have it. Now, if we press J and we scroll it, you can see they open at the same time, which isn't quite what we want. So let's go Shift F3. These tubes, so you can't really tell which one's which, so it's a good idea to go, this is the planet, so call it planet cut, and call this mantle cut. And now we can just click on this mantle cut, it'll select all the frames, click this yellow bar at the top, and just move it across. And now when we play it back, there you go, stuff opens in turn. See, simple, just offset it a bit, and then it catches up to it. Wonderful, isn't it? Okay, next step, what we got to do? Actually, let's just render it, see what we got so far. Okay, we have this weird issue with lights. I notice this happens a lot. I'm not sure if it's an R14 issue, but I definitely see it often when working on scenes. Sometimes you have to just remake the lights. Let's try and figure it out quickly here. This light, I think, is the problem because it's an ambient illumination light, but R14 doesn't like it has shadows turned on. Or that it has... Anyway, let's hit render and see if that helped. Yep, it was just the shadows. Ambient illumination does not like having shadows turned on because, I don't know, someone somewhere changed some settings. So basically, if you're having issues like something's dark, just go to this ambient illumination light that we made last time and turn off shadows. That should be sweet. Now, this mantle, let's make it a bit more interesting than just the colors. Always, I like to, once I've set all the colors, I like to add a bit of a gradient to everything. It's just the way I like to work. So, here we have all this. Let's fold this down and let's drag this guy. Select this thing and drag it into there. And delete this thing, then click it. Like what we do is click and drag to get rid of the thing, and then you just click there to make a new one. And now we can just slightly change it to maybe like a slightly redder, just very small gradient. Like the gradient doesn't have to be big, it's a very subtle gradient. And there we go. I hope you saw how I dragged the colors over. It's just, this color, if we make it like blue, what we do is just grab it from here, drag it there, and ta-da, we transfer the data. And currently, actually, let's change it to Fresnel, not gradient. And once again, let's do the same thing here. Drag it in. Delete this marker. Make another one. Well, let's just make it a bit more red. Not too much more red. There we go. And now if we hit render, it's just not completely flat like this. I don't know, it's nice. Turn on some reflection. Turn on Fresnel. Drag it all down. Very slight. Turn on some luminance. Luminance never hurts things that glow. Again, make it yellow. Drag it down. Doesn't have to be that strong. Hit the render button. It already looks a bit better. We're liking hypernerves on these things. Let's throw these guys into some hypernerves. So let's throw this thing into a hypernerve as well. Just get rid of those. Now you see we have significantly reduced render times. That's because the hypernerve is already smoothing something. Yeah, so it's fine. 9 seconds, not a big deal. And you can see we have reflection there and that thing. Drag it back a bit. I'll say it's like it looks a bit nicer, maybe like an egg yolk, but it's an artistic choice. Same thing here, red thing, let's add some reflection. Fresnel, drag it down to like 2 and 3%. Add some glow, luminance, some yellows, drag it down. A bit more red. See what we get. There we go, a nice shiny little sphere with an interior. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add text, which can be radially, placed. So, we do that in the following way. We make a a circle spline. Let's rotate it around, holding a shift key to make it blocks with the angle. Let's scale it down. Where's our view? Yeah, about yay big. Now let's make a MoGraph text object, MoText. Sorry, material edges still here. Attributes, object, mantle. Sorry, mantle. Wow, it's big. Anyway, let's pick a font. That's font pickers. Terrible. Anyway, there's a lot of fonts to pick from. I'm going to pick this thing called Sunline because it's a new free font that I found and I like using it. Can't find, there it is. Sunline. It's a nice font. So, it's our mantle. Let's make it a bit smaller. So, how are we going to stick this text onto the spline? I'm going to use a spline wrap. And I'm going to put it under the text, and I'm going to drag this circle spline into the spline wrap. Now, as you can see right now, move the circle spline above the text object because that's what's going to be read first. It's kind of wrapping around the whole spline. So we do the circle, we make it editable, we go to point mode, and we delete this point here. And we untick close spline. And as you can see, that's absolutely not what we need at all. So we go undo, and we select this point here. Let's turn off this wrapping spline thing for a moment. Select this top point, and we go right click, and we go set first point. Now we go, see, wrong one. We deleted there. So we do just like this point, and we go right click, and we go set first point. And now we untick it. Yay, that's what we have. We have a semicircle spline. Wonderful. So we turn on the spline, and now we have the letters along the spline. Let's move the spline. Let's go back to object mode, and move the spline back to around here. So, how do we fix these letters? Well, let's go to spline wrap, rotation, and let's rotate this thing in. Seems backwards. Seems better, minus 90. The letters seem a bit big, so let's scale the letters down. And then let's scale this circle thing in. And then let's move this circle spline out a bit. Or, I think the letters aren't thick enough. Do you think the letters are thick enough? Let's make the letters thicker. Depth. There we go. That's maybe too much. That's nice. Okay, so let's move the spline in again so they're just touching. Let's turn on NB for mesh mode. See, I'm talking about some really ugly bool cutting there. So let's move them like here. There we go. And maybe scale this spline a bit up. And see how these letters are really close to the edge right now? Let's go to our spline wrap and let's just shift them off by using these from and to parameters. There you go. Now it's not quite, stuck to where it was. It's like a bit more free space. And if we press the render button, it's nice. However, I don't see any shadows. Why don't I see any shadows from the letters? Where's our light? Our light has shadows, right? No, it doesn't. Let's turn on hard shadows and hit render. And our light disappeared. Let's move this guy out, see if that helps. This is what I'm talking about. There's some new features that don't quite work as expected. Details, no. Shadows, infinite. What could it be? So if we turn it off and we hit render, nothing. If we turn it on and hit render, same thing. So, 10 points to the person who figures out why this doesn't work. Show illumination, no illumination, general illumination, ambient illumination. Hey, look, something changed. Nope, didn't change. Let's make a new light. and see if that helps. Infinite light. Yeah, R14 I think just changed the way the lights work. So, honestly, it doesn't look much better. Light, shadow map, hard, details, no fall off in case you're getting fall off. And let's hit render. Oh yes, of course, I know what the problem is. Remember when we hit this wonderful little plane? Yeah, that thing is blocking the light. So, compositing tag, cast shadow, receive shadows, and problem solved. We have shadows on our letters now. So, sometimes if you're having issues with lighting, sometimes there's just something in the way, and sometimes it's a stupid issue. Could be a bug, but in this case, not a bug. So, these letters, once again, I want to make them bigger. I know I can't make up my mind, but I just want to make them bigger. And if you see, we have a bit of issue here with that stuff. So what we do is we go to this motext object, we go to caps, and we change them to quadrangles, and we change them to regular grid, and we change this to taste. But basically, there we have it. And now we shouldn't have we do have an issue. What is our issue with that letter? I did not have this issue before. There is caps, delay cap, delay cap? Nope. I wonder what it is. Height issue? The height seems to definitely have an effect on it. Intermediate points, natural. Uniform, there we go. Sometimes you have to change the point modes to fix things. There we go, much nicer. And let's turn our fillet caps on to catch some highlights. They're very nice. Let's turn on 3 steps and maybe like 0.5. And now let's hit render. There we go, we have nice letters. Maybe add a white material to them. Just make a new material. Make sure its color is 100% white. And just stick it on the letters. And hit render. There, how nice is that? And if you want to add a bit more depth to the letters, I think this yellow. I don't like this yellow. I don't like this yellow. Color, yellow, a bit more reflection maybe. No, I want some more saturation to it. So it's like yellow. I think that's nicer. Yeah, if we want, we can also add some ambient occlusion. For example, to the letters. Wherever the letters. Let's go color and put this to effects, ambient occlusion. Go here. I like to change this thing to 50% gray about, otherwise it's too kind of strong. And we hit render. As you can see, it'll take a bit longer to render, but now there's like some nice shading in the little areas, and you're only applying it to the letters, so you're not getting any, huge render time increase. Because if you turn ambient occlusion on everywhere, it'll affect all of this stuff as well, which is bad. Now, you notice it's affecting too much of it. What you want to do is you want to reduce this maximum ray length. If you right-click and you go Show Help, right-click on this and you go Show Help, we'll see what it does. If you can, yep, it's inside view. See maximum ray length. It basically shows you how, how far the kind of ambient occlusion shadow goes. So, in this case, the letter's depth, attributes, is, what is the depth? Depth is only 10 centimeters. So I reckon this thing can be like 2 centimeters. And then if we hit render, see, there we go. And it renders faster as well, and we still have that little depth. So, we've got the mantle thing settled. No, we have to animate it now, right? So we get this circle. We're going to animate the circle. If you select it and you rotate, see, it moves in and out. So what we do is we're going to keyframe at like 30 or 40 for now. Let's press the keyframe button for the location of the circle and the rotation of it. And then let's go back to 20. And actually, let's just move this over to 50. And at 40, let's move this back into the earth. Holding a shift key, maybe 180. There you go. And press keyframe. And now, as you can see, the animation comes out. Now, what I recommend doing now is actually putting a null, like make a new null object. Null. There you go. It's at 0, 0, 0, and put this object into it. This way we can now move and shift this object and the animation still sticks. You'll see in a second why that's important. What we're going to do now is we're going to make the correlators. So we're going to group these two. We're going to go Alt G. We're going to call this mantle text. And now we're going to copy it, and we're going to call it core text. And we're going to go to this mode text, and we're going to type in core. Now, as you can see, it's kind of in the wrong place. So what we're just going to rotate this null, because the circle, we can't really do anything with it because it has keyframes on it now. But we can still rotate this null. Rotate it this way, there you go, 90 degrees, and then rotate it around so that the core thing fits there. As you see, the letters are kind of off as well, so we're going to go back to our mode text, no, our spline wrap, and we're going to turn our rotation back to 0. And then by using the from and to things, we're going to make sure the letters fit. As you can see right now, it's upside down, so maybe a good idea is to turn this to 180. Okay, that's correct. We're going to scale this thing in so it fits in. We're going to go back to mode text, and we're going to adjust it accordingly. Again, our plane's getting in the way. And let's scale the size of this font down a bit as well. And move this null object a bit up. And now, as you can see also, if we play it back, see it's gone and it appears. And we don't have to do the animation twice, just like we do with the booles. And also, if you notice right now, our animation isn't quite correctly timed. Let's go Shift F3 again. And these circles, again, let's rename this core rotate. And now we can click on it, and we can shift it off. So now we have it unfolding, the mantle comes in, and the core text comes in. Great, looks like we're nearly there. Now all we need to do is get this planet to fly into the scene, and we're nearly there. I think this core needs to be a bit smaller. I don't like currently its intersection with. That's better, seems good. There we go. That looks great, doesn't it? Okay, so let's fix all these keyframes. So we go Shift F3 again, so we have a timeline. Let's select all these keyframes, and let's move them over, because we don't need them animating straight away. Let's make a new null object. Also, you notice sometimes I use LG, sometimes I make a new null object. It depends on what. If the objects are not animated, press LG. It's easy. But if you're already animated, and they're animated relative to like the main scene and they're in the center, it's easier to make a null object and then just throw them all in there, because then you'll have less problems with animation. I have other tutorials which actually cover this whole relative null position. Have a look through my other tutorials, you'll find it. It's an important feature to know about. So, we have this null, let's call it Earth. You know what, let's make another null and call it Earth rotate. And stuff all this stuff in there again. So, Earth zoom. So, we have our Earth. Let's go to frame 40, keyframe the position, and all the other stuff. Let's go back to frame 0. Let's move it back. And keyframe it again. And now we have the Earth lying in, unfolding, and we have letters. Now we need to add some rotation. So let's say about here, I want the rotation of the Earth to be like, maybe like this. So keyframe. And back here, I want the rotation of the Earth to be over here, keyframe. And now if we unselect this, you can see it coming in, rotating, and then it unfolds, and we have the labels. Maybe the timing could use some work. Let's make this, where's our rotation? Let's rotate. Maybe we can move this here so already it unfolds and we can see it. And here it just rotates very slowly, a bit further. So kind of, and then just pans kind of. Pans. There we go. Sweet. So, press play again. I don't like how fast that thing moves out. Let's go Shift F3. Let's find our Earth rotate and our circle rotators. Let's go Control click both of them. Let's grab this thing and let's drag it out a bit. That way we can stretch the animation. There we go, that's much nicer. So, there you have it. We render it. We have a nice little text, we have a nice little ambient occlusion, there's even a bit of reflection going on there. I think we did a pretty good job. So, enjoy it. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Okay. Very nice little animation that you do. You know, stick more labels on it as you please. So yeah, I'll be doing more tutorials hopefully in the near future. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time.